Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Monday edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Yes, they are Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Yes. Hope everyone had a very, very nice weekend. I know Kyle Nash, Black Eagle Banneret, he's going to join us in about 10 minutes, but I want the floor. I want to start out and give my opinions on a couple things. And it was a very busy weekend for me, and there was a lot going on. I watched college football. I watched high school football. I watched the NFL yesterday with the Buccaneers winning. Hey, the Dolphins won, but we can't start there. No. We have to start what happened yesterday. We got the news. And my buddy Trey Wallace with Outkick.com was the first to be on this story. So good job, Trey. Yes, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, LSU, the Bayou Bengals, have fired their head football coach, Mr. Brian Kelly. He only lasted maybe 4 years there. Didn't even finish the fourth year, and they fired him last night after a disappointing 2025 season that isn't even over yet. Fired him. And that joins Penn State, Florida, UCLA. I can keep going if you want. And now LSU, where programs that play in Power 4 conferences have fired their coach. And I've said this for a couple weeks. I was not shocked that Billy Napier was fired at Florida. I mean, he had a record under 500, 2 games below 500. He deserved to be fired. They didn't win at Florida. And I said this 2 weeks ago, Brian Kelly's going to get fired at LSU, and it happened last night. And you knew Brian Kelly was done when 2 weeks ago they took on Vanderbilt. That's right, the Commodores, usually the bottom feeder of the SEC, the smart school, the team that the other teams in the conference beat up year in and year out. That Vandy team that's having this Cinderella season. They took on LSU 2 weeks ago. Vegas decided, looking at both teams' resumes, body of work, said Vandy is favored against LSU. The ultimate slap in the face to that fan base. And you know what Vandy did? They backed it up. They proved Vegas right. That's how bad LSU has been. And this past weekend, they got smoked. They got embarrassed by Texas A&M, a better football team. Again, let me just say this in case you're a space alien, you just landed on this planet. Vandy, who's usually a terrible football team, who's happy to just get to a bowl game, is having a great season. And Vegas said, oh, you're going to take on LSU? All right, well, we think you're better than them, and you're going to cover. And you know what? They were right. They were right. That's how bad LSU has been. I mean, look, the game against the Gators a couple weeks ago, DJ Lagway, the quarterback of the Gators, threw 5 interceptions in that game, and the Gators still could have won. That's how bad LSU has been. They fired him, and Brian Kelly is going to get over $50 million to not coach LSU. What did James Franklin get? 40+ million? Billy Napier, not as much money, still 20+ million guaranteed not to coach these teams. This is the new reality we live in with the transfer portal and NIL and these coaches making $10+ million a year. You better win, and you better win now. Oh, you got to give them 3 or 4 years. No, that's the olden way of looking at things. Now you got to win year one. We expect to win. If we're going to give you $10 million, then we're going to put another $20 million in NIL, and we're going to hit the transfer portal. We don't want to wait. We don't want this to be a rebuilding project. We better win day one. And the problem with Brian Kelly was, we all know the video. I posted it to Twitter. He came out before he coached the game. He was at that LSU basketball game, and he got on the microphone, and he starts talking to the crowd, and he's using this fake Southern accent. What are you doing? That was the first red flag that this is not going to work. Now, did they win some football games in the SEC? Yeah, they did. He even beat Alabama. He did that. He won bowl games. Hey, his quarterback, he brought in Jane Daniels, transfer, won the Heisman Trophy. But when you look at the bigger picture, did we win the conference? No. Did we make the playoff? No. Did we win a playoff game? No. 0-0-0. Not good enough for that fan base. He said he was going there to win championships, and he couldn't even win the conference. It's ridiculous. Heck, Ed Orgeron, the coach they fired, he won an SEC championship and a national title, and they ran him out of town. It is insane that this is the world we live in, but this is going to be the reality moving forward. My thought process is, if I was like the commissioner of college football, how about not give these guys 8-10-year contracts fully guaranteed? How about moving forward, hey, 4 or 5 years is guaranteed, and then we'll see what you do. Then maybe there's incentives in there to get more money. You can't give these guys these gigantic contracts anymore. So if you're LSU, you're going to pay him $50 million. Then what are you going to pay the next guy? $100 million? $200 million? Where's this money coming from after a while? So that is the latest. Yeah, Brian Kelly, the guy who could have stayed at Notre Dame for the next 25 years, said, no, I have to prove myself. I need to go to the best conference in college football. Forget Notre Dame, that has a fan base all around the world, and people love them. And even with 2 losses right now, are ranked in the top 15. And you know they're just going to get into the playoff anyway, just off their name. No, I got to coach LSU. I got to forget Notre Dame. LSU's a better job. Well, it appears it's not. It's not. And that's why I said last week when we talked about names for the Florida opening, oh, maybe Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. No. Marcus Freeman's not going to make the same mistake Brian Kelly did. He's going to stay at Notre Dame for the rest of his career. Unless he's awful. Like, if this guy's competitive, they're making the playoff every year, yeah, he's going to be there for a while. He's not going to make the same mistake Brian Kelly did. He's not. He'll stay at Notre Dame. So just take him off any list whatsoever. So it's funny where, last week with Florida, it was Florida against Penn State. What's the better job? Now it's a 3-team race. What's the best job? Is it Florida? Is it LSU? Is it Penn State? I read ESPN.com this morning, and they ranked LSU as the best job, Penn State number 2, Florida 3. That's how they ranked it. And you know what? Outside of the state of Florida, I bet you a lot of people feel that way. If it's players, coaches, media, fans, I could see that situation. LSU has unlimited money. They can get great recruits. They've won championships in the last decade. Hell, they won, 2019. They've won recently. Penn State was in the semifinal of the 12-team playoff. They're winning 10 games a year with James Franklin, even though they fired him. Florida, last time was competitive 10-win season, 2020, the pandemic year. Last time they were in the SEC title game. Last time Florida won the conference, 2008. Last time they won the national title, 2008. 17 years ago. So if you're going to look at from that, just from the scoreboard, the stats, yeah, if nationally, they'd probably say Florida's number 3. But I'll tell you, the big winner in all of this, the big winner, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin can go to Penn State, LSU, Florida, even the school he's at right now, where he's in contention to go on a deep playoff run in the playoff. He could go to Ole Miss, those 4 schools, and say, all right, what are you going to pay me? Because he's the top candidate, and everyone's going to bid for him. I just said a minute ago, don't give these guys gigantic long-term contracts, but it's going to happen again. History's going to repeat itself, and Lane Kiffin's going to get a big, gigantic contract. That's what's going to happen. I still think every source that I've talked to says it is Lane Kiffin to Florida. But now with this LSU opening, now things are going to get interesting. And the problem with all this for college football, it is October 27th. We're not at Halloween yet. There's still the whole month of November for college football. Then we're going to have championship Saturday. Then we're going to have the playoff. If you want to hire a coach and you're one of these big schools, you might have to wait till January now to hire your guy. That could happen. But again, Brian Kelly fired there at LSU. Not shocked by that. Not one bit. Not one bit. Couldn't win there. And again, no Nick Saban anymore. What's your excuse? It is shocking. And you know what? By the time we get to the Halloween on Friday, there might be more firings. Who knows what happens? By the end of the year, fire, fire, fire. See, this is the new world we live in. You have to win now. If you're a player or a coach at college football or basketball, we're giving you millions of dollars. You need to win. Those are the expectations. You can't say, oh, shucks, we got a team, and, oh, well, I hope we can compete this year against our rivals. Oh, no. You keep raising the prices on the tickets. You keep raising the prices on the TV for me to watch the game, the streaming app. Everything keeps going up. Well, then expectations go up. If you're going to sign that contract, we expect to win. That's the reality of college sports. Now, I can relate this to the NBA, where I went to the Orlando Magic game this past weekend. So I wanted to see the Magic play. Couldn't go last week. Too busy covering, Florida Gators stuff with Napier being fired. So I said, fine, I'm going Saturday night. I'm going to see the team I grew up rooting for, my beloved, terrible Chicago Bulls. So I went to the Kia Center, went to the game. Great crowd, great atmosphere. Hiru Turkoglu is there. I saw him after the game walking by. That guy is a giant. And he was hitting those threes. That guy was great for that 09 Magic team. And the Magic came out flat. Chicago, the Bulls, who can't hit a shot from the outside, outplayed them for 4 quarters. Remember, the Bulls played Wednesday, won their opener against Atlanta. That was off till Saturday. Orlando played Miami in the opener Wednesday, then played again Friday against Atlanta, lost a close game, then had to do the back-to-back home games. Chicago's more rested, but we're only 2 or 3 games into the season. Orlando came out flat. No Jalen Suggs, but they came out flat. Now, I know it's early. It is. It's an 82-game marathon. It is. They came out flat. Chicago just beat them. Out hustle, out rebound, out assist, out fast break, everything out hustled the Magic on their own court. Whooped them in that second half. It was close there for a bit. Then Chicago went away. They won. It was not a good look. It was not. Again, I'm not in the panic switch just yet after the loss, but I'll just say this, and I really mean this. I'm not kidding around. This team signed a lot of players in the last 2 years. They gave Jalen Suggs money. They gave Franz Wagner money. They gave Paolo Banchero money. All those guys are locked up. The faces of the organization. Traded for Desmond Bane, gave him money. Everyone got paid. So you know what? Just like I was saying with college athletics, same thing applies to the Magic. All right. We paid you because we expect to be a contender now. No more excuses. Now, look, every great team will have little stretches where you lose a couple games, but the way they paid these players and invested in them long term, you can't go 40-42 and be in the play-in game this year. You can't do that. This team's expectations is to win 50-plus games, be a top 4 seed in a wide-open Eastern Conference. That's what the expectations need to be. Not, we're still trying to develop. And we got no. We did that over the last 3 years. It's time to play big boy basketball. I get it. You can lose on any night in the NBA. But expectations are higher now. They are. And if you want to be a real franchise, that's what has to happen. You got to come out, and if you take on a lottery-type team like Chicago or maybe even Atlanta, you got to whoop them on your home court. That's what it needs to be. I'm sorry, oh, Mark, you're being too hard. No, you need to win. Those are the expectations. Nothing lower. Top 4 seed, contender in the East. Don't give me this. Well, no. You want to be a star. You want to make the all-star team. You want big money from endorsements every single night. That makes you a star and a pro. That's what you need. And you got to get on that microphone post-game. You got to get in front of the media, and you got to say, hey, we got to be better. Grab the bull by the horns and keep going. It was funny when I sat down at the game, it hit me. I've been here since 2013. This is my 13th season going to that stadium. I have never seen a playoff series win. I've seen them win playoff games, never seen them make the second round. Let's change that this year. I want to win. See, I'm just as guilty. Once you win, you create the monster. And guess what? The monster's always hungry. That's what happens here. It is. I'm not driving there to the Kia Center and then watch them lose by 15 points to a bunch of jabroni G League team like the Bulls. All right? I just have to get that off my chest. Oh, man. Here's what we're going to do. I sat down this morning. It was the best time I could get him with my good friend Kyle Nash, Black Eagle Banneret, and other great publications. I want his thoughts on Brian Kelly and the current state of college football. Let's do that here on a Monday. I'm going to play this right now. Yeah, then we'll come back right here on the show. Coming on with me, he's very busy for multiple publications. He's my good friend Kyle Nash, especially Black Eagle Banneret. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, no, appreciate you having me on. You caught me in that place where I was less busy, but still busy. Like it was a bye week for the Jags. It was a bye week for UCF. But still plenty of going on and plenty to talk about without question. And I don't think we're talking about gambling stuff, but we'll let the NBA deal with that a little more. Oh, my goodness.
All right, before we get to that, I want to get your thoughts because everyone's got an opinion on this now. Last time we learned Brian Kelly fired at LSU. So before Halloween, seriously, we're not even Halloween, which is this Friday.
Right.
Florida fired their coach, Penn State, now LSU. Big buyouts for all three of them. What are your thoughts on the current state of college football where people are just getting acts like that?
It's the state of the entitled blue blood, right? And what's crazy to me is that they can get the alums to pony up the kizash like that, like these tens of millions of dollars buyout, right? Now, granted, that wasn't the case of Billy Napier. I feel like a big part of why he stayed last year in Florida, I shouldn't say but a big part, like I said, is that the buyout was cheaper this season to do it. And he did just enough there. I think Billy Napier's a different example than James Franklin and Brian Kelly both being, axed. I'll say this. There's a tweet out there I saw, and I forget who the source of it was, but he has worse records than, all of the previous LSU coaches ahead of him, none of which dealt with NIL, but it's not like 34-14 in your tenure at an SEC school is horrific. But LSU isn't about that life. It's one of these entitled fan bases that thinks they should win everything. It's different with a Penn State where you've been at the top and you can't make the leap because you constantly lose in the big games. And so I'll put it this way. Brian Kelly's demeanor didn't do him any favors, I don't think. But it's just crazy to me how that money gets ponied up for that. And will you still have enough to afford players in the next regime with whoever else you get? Because you don't know who that is yet either, right?
Yeah, the follow-up to that is, all right, you got to pay him over $50 million.
Right.
How much you paying the next coach? Like, is he also going to get $10 million a year for 10 years? Like, that's why it's just so shocked. See, this goes to a bigger point.
Yes.
He was stupid and wrong. I know that's bad grammar. To leave Notre Dame. You don't see Brian Kelly's the first guy that said, I'll leave Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not the mountain. I'm going to go to the SEC and prove it. He never, in hindsight, should have left Notre Dame, and that's why Marcus Freeman's not leaving for any job. There's no way. Brian Kelly could have been there for the next 25 years as the coach at Notre Dame. He was wrong for going to LSU. Your thoughts?
And the benefit of hindsight, it's a beautiful thing, right? And let's not, again, forget the millions of dollars. Like, we are way behind on the number of $1 million, like, our Dr. Evil clips. We're just way behind on that. There's been so much of that dropped here in this conversation, Mark Moses. But, for me, I'm not going to knock a dude for trying to test the water and see how good he really is. Should he or should he not have done it? I'll put it this way. At Notre Dame, I don't know if you remember, Mark, but he wasn't exactly appreciated in that space, right? The first Notre Dame coach with 4 straight 10-win seasons, and they were still calling for his head after that. Now, granted, this is back in, I'm pretty sure this was in like the college football playoff tenure with the Final Four game. Obviously, it wasn't the full playoff like we have now. But I think you have to consider that. And then the limitations in recruiting where grades and the academic aspect was a disadvantage competing against the SEC. He wanted to give it a shot. I'm not mad at him for it.
Okay, I'll respect that. I think it was the wrong decision. All right, when you think
we know that now.
Yeah, here's what's funny. Okay, he could have made the excuse, well, I got to take on Nick Saban. Well, Nick Saban's not there anymore. Why are you not winning? And dude, I texted you this a couple weeks ago. The final nail in the coffin for him there was they took on Vanderbilt, and Vegas said Vandy is favored in this game. And Vegas was right. Vandy beat them. You beat Vandy, then they came out and Texas A&M kicked the crap out of them. That was the end. The expectations, if we're going to pay you all this money and we're going to spend all this money on NIL, you have to win. I have no sympathy for any of these coaches. And maybe he goes into TV, maybe he takes another job, but it was a failure. Ed Orgeron was better than him at LSU. That's my thoughts on him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a note, right? And I'll grant, too, and this isn't me throwing a pity party for Brian Kelly, but I do think the, shall we say, backlash towards him is a little extreme, right? Ed Orgeron, I repeat, did not have to deal with the NIL era. I'm curious to see how he does there. There's something about that guy come in your living room, tell you what's up, and go Tigers. Well, it's not going to be go Tigers anymore if he coaches again. But, well, not for the LSU Tigers anyway. But, like, I feel like he might be a more warm and cuddly option in recruiting maybe, but Brian Kelly's not that, and maybe he can't overcome that. I don't know what the issue is, but I'm also not mad at LSU for moving off of him just for how much money they're paying to do it. And you're getting the state governor involved? That's kind of crazy to me.
That's the state team there. That is what it is. When he came out and used that fake Southern accent, that was, dude. I mean, look, I'm not originally from Florida. Could you imagine the first day I went on the air when I moved here and I came on and tried to talk like Steve Spurrier? Do you know how fake that is?
Hey, listen, Mark Moses, you'll always be a member of my radio family as far as
I was at that game. Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? It's all a blur now. The opener in Orlando when it was LSU and Florida State. And it's so bizarre to think Jane Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy, by the way, was the quarterback of that team. They're up big at halftime, and then they choked it away to Florida State. Like, it's just, it's bizarre. So I'm going to ask you this question then. There are 3 openings, and you have to give me your honest opinion, okay? So you have Penn State, LSU, and Florida. Rank the openings of what's the sexiest to take if you are a head coach.
Number one, well, I'll do it reverse order. Easily the worst job, and I'm going to tick some people off. It's Florida. It's 100% Florida. Then I put LSU at a distant second. Penn State's the best job out there right now.
Why is Penn State the best job?
You got the blue bloods that'll open up the wallet. You got the tradition there to where you're a big enough brand and you're relevant nationally to get all that recruiting to happen. Sure, you may not have to travel, you'll have to travel way farther than either LSU or Florida to get recruits. That's okay. You have the money to do it with that Big Ten contract, and then you have the softness of the wildly overrated Big Ten to deal with. Other than Ohio State, it's a conference of frauds. So, you know, you get a proper coach that can continue to gate players at the clip that Franklin does. You expose Indiana for the absolute fraud that they are. And then maybe you lose some games to Ohio State, sneak yourself into at least a conference championship, get to the playoff on a regular basis, win a playoff game or two, and then you have a long tenure there. That's how I see it.
Yeah, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's the team. There's no, like, they're Penn State, so there's no Penn A&M or University of Pennsylvania at that level. Not like in Florida where you got Miami, you got Florida State, you got UCF, you got these other schools competing against you. And you're right, there's no Bama, there's no Georgia in the Big Ten. There isn't. All right, why'd you put Florida at 3 then as the worst?
Well, okay, so we talk about the Big Ten. The only real competition right there is Ohio State. The SEC is still the premier conference in college football, okay? And the competition there is insane. That's the reason why Brian Kelly failed too, right? Like, let's call that what it is. I even hate using the word failed because it's not like 34-14. How many franchises would murder for 34-14 right now, dude? I say franchises, I mean schools. You know what I mean?
Dude, the Gators would take it under Billy Napier, if that's what you're going to say. He was 2 games below 500, and they got rid of him. So why? So again, Gators, I could tell in your voice, the Gators is a great job. It's just there's going to be better openings in your eyes.
Absolutely. I'm not here to say it's a poverty job. I don't think we're there yet. I do know that, well, no, and we mentioned this earlier. Their buyout debt is a little bit less than the other 2 schools. So you do have that going for you, right? But going to Gainesville doesn't hold the same weight in this era as it did in the past. And there's a little of that. That's troubling, Granted, like I said, the recruiting location, the state of Florida, and you can get some good recruits out of Georgia, not for nothing, and you're just a stone's throw away, relatively speaking, from Alabama and Louisiana and all that. You could still get Louisiana recruits battling against LSU, right? But yeah, it's tough, man.
All right, if you're Lane Kiffin, Kyle Nash, are you the big winner? And like just today, just right now, your team is ranked in the top 15. You got a chance to go to the playoff. Hell, they can go a run on the playoff. But now you're going to have LSU and Florida probably fighting over you. Is he the big winner today?
Oh, of course. The coaching market, he's the biggest name. And by the way, let's not so quickly rule out a Lane Kiffin in Penn State, right? That's on the board. I don't think it happens, but it's on the board.
You know what it is? You know what he'd do? He'd take the interview. He'd take the interview with all of them, then let them fight each other.
That's
so I like
business.
That's what you would do in this.
Yeah.
Would there be any scenario where he stays there at Ole Miss? I say no.
Of course there is. And that's if they back up the Brinks truck. Like, come on, dude.
Should we give coaches these 10-year deals anymore? I say no. No.
Not at 10 years. Yeah. Give them the per year money that they want, but keep the contract short, or put incentives in there if you want to extend, the option to extend things like that. But I would, the days of, you mentioned the 10-year contract. I think that needs to be gone, especially, again, with NIL being what it is and the just complete and total lack of stability that's currently in college football. Conferences will continue to change and shift. We haven't seen the last of everything, so I think it's just prudent because of the environment. Forget the coaches and the stuff we've seen in some of this drama. Just the landscape of college football does not support such long contracts for coaches.
This conversation we've had for the last 10 minutes, I have found more interesting than most of this college football season. Sorry. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the expansion of the playoff, but there's a part of me where I don't know if winning the conference is as big of a deal as it used to be. I don't know if Championship Saturday is going to matter anymore. I mean, look, here's my perfect example. In the ACC right now, the title game in Charlotte in December would be, if we played it right now, Georgia Tech, which is undefeated, and Virginia, who should be undefeated, lost 1 game somehow out of conference against a conference opponent in the Wolfpack. Those 2 teams would fight. The Miami fans, they think they're going to the playoff and will not win the conference. I mean, all these scenarios are going on. There's just this weird feeling right now where maybe the conference doesn't matter anymore, where, hey, I just got to get in one of those playoff fields. Do you kind of feel that way as well, or do you disagree?
It matters less. I don't think that can be judged, right? I mean, just look at the road that Oregon got stuck with after their record last year, right? Or Ohio State even too, I should say. They had the harder gauntlet, even though they were the top school. They still won the national championship, respect to them, of course. But that you won your conference, you were the top seed in the nation, and you still got the hardest road. That was an obvious miss. Now they've corrected the reseeding, if I remember correctly. But yeah, the conference matters a lot less, especially if you happen to be in a conference like the SEC that gets respect. The conference matters more for the Big 12 and the everyday deteriorating ACC, which, by the way, I find it interesting. We were talking Penn State earlier. You didn't even bring up Pitt. and rightly so. So, so for the Big 12 and the ACC, it's still a big deal. For a Group of 5 team, it's still a big deal because you can't get that spot without winning your conference. But overall, for the bigger conferences, yeah, you're right. It's diluted.
I apologize to Larry Fitzgerald and the rest of the pit, Dan Marino, all that, but no, Penn State's at another level. Okay? It's another level. Even though they both are a Group of 4, no, it's not the same. It'll be fascinating, Kyle, to see when the college football playoffs first rankings come out to see how, because remember last year, the first year, they said the top 4 conference winners will get the bye. That's out the window now.
Correct.
Now they'll pick whoever they want. They don't care with what's going to happen. Did you have fun this past weekend where you had no Jaguars and no UCF to go to? Was that good for you?
It was decent, but I was still on parent duty because my wife picked that weekend to go out of town. So, hey, I got 2 pies. Oh, wait, I'm still on the clock.
Smart. All right. I know you have to go. You have another show to do, but I want to get your thoughts and to go back and forth on this. Yeah. We'll end with this then here with Kyle Nash. All right. And we got to talk Magic. I went to the game this weekend. We'll do this moving forward. But, all right, it is October 27th.
Mm-hmm.
When do you hire these guys? January? How for college football? What do you do exactly?
As soon as you can is my response, right? Because they got to hit the ground running. They got to start, carting, air quotes, scouting, going through, evaluating the players that they want to target, getting on board with the alums such that it is. But how do you do that in the middle of a season? That's a great question. And with the college football calendar, that still really hasn't been figured out yet. And I don't know if there are rules that say, you can't hire a coach until X time or anything like that. But as a general rule of thumb, like January, like you mentioned, hell, even maybe even December, if you're a team that isn't concerned with the conference championship or the playoff, is when you get it. Merry Christmas. I'm flying to recruit some kid.
This reminds me when Scott Frost left for Nebraska, and then they were fighting over should he coach the bowl game. I think that's going to happen in this scenario with some of these guys.
Undoubtedly, and it already has too, right? There was the scenario with Mackenzie Milton before he came over to coach with Frost. He stayed on with Heupel for their postseason and then joined the team from there, which you mentioned the Frost scenario. They too kind of had that same arrangement reversed, when Heupel was the incumbent, but Frost still coached that now famous 2017 bowl game, right? So
the last big bowl game they won. I'm sorry. You forget these things with the I'm sorry to say that. Okay. Remember, because Joe Burrow beat him in the other one. So what's it called? Kyle Nash, thanks for your help, man, and have a great week. All right.
Honor, joy, and privilege to do the thing, man. Looking forward to more during the week if you got time. And hey, until next time, brother. Class dismissed. I don't think we're talking about gambling stuff.
Great stuff there with, yes, Kyle Nash, Black and Gold Banneret, does other great work, covering the Jaguars, NFL, and more. Love that conversation from earlier today. And yeah, you can follow Kyle on all the social media platforms, and he'll join us moving forward. If you look at coming up tonight in the world of the NFL, it is going to be the Washington Commanders. And I don't believe Jaden Daniels is going to be playing. I guess still with the injury at the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs, and I'm taking the points. And I think the Chiefs are going to be a contender. We'll find out, though. It's been a wonky, wacky season so far in the NFL. I'm taking the Chiefs tonight. Real quick before I go, give it up for the one-eyed bandit, if you want to call him that, the pink-eyed, whatever happened to Tua Tagovailoa. We only had pretty much one eye, 4 touchdowns. They kill the Atlanta Falcons. Dolphins get their second win of the season. That was a big win. That was. If we could have seen that team yesterday to start the season, maybe they'd be in contention right now to get to the playoffs. They look great. Or maybe Atlanta's just awful. Maybe a little bit of both. But I give props to Tua after how he played 2 weeks ago, which was god-awful against Cleveland. He came to play yesterday. He played great. And you know what? Keep wearing that visor. If you need an eye patch, maybe one eye is better than no eyes when it comes to him being the quarterback of the Dolphins. That was a big win. And then the Buccaneers game yesterday against Saints, not really pretty. They won 23-3. It should have been worse. Winfield, that should have been a touchdown. They said down by contact after the turnover. That should have been a touchdown. They should have won by more. The Buccaneers are 6-2 going to the bye week. They got some big games moving forward, but if you're a Bucs fan, you got to be happy. We can't get Luke Easterling on today. He's super swamped. That's fine. He'll join us moving forward. But yeah, big story from the weekend. Brian Kelly out at LSU, and the openings are LSU, Florida, Penn State, in whatever order you want. I root for the Gators, and cover the team. I'll say Florida's the best job, but we'll find out moving forward. Hey, we're always broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Yes, take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Have a great day. Enjoy the games tonight because we got baseball and Monday Night Football. Yes, World Series 1-1. Have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow right here on the Mark Moses Show.